That's when she saw them. 40 motorbikes rolling slowly into her front field, tires hissing against the snow. Their engines growled like beasts held on leashes. Chrome caught the pale light of morning, flashing like blades. Snow drifted in slow, lazy spirals through the morning air, settling softly over the rolling fields of the English countryside. The old farmhouse stood alone on the edge of a narrow, frost-bitten road, a structure more memory than brick now. Its walls wore the years like scars, the paint cracked and flaking, the roof patched and tired. Inside, a single woman moved through the silence with the practiced rhythm of someone who had lived alone for too long. Her name was Margaret Holloway, 82 years old, widowed 15 winters ago. Her steps were small but purposeful as she shuffled toward the kitchen. The floorboards creaked beneath her slippers, groaning like old friends. She cracked the last of her eggs into a battered skillet, sliced what remained of yesterday's bread, and warmed a small pot of milk on the stove. It wasn't much, but it was hers, a ritual that tethered her to something steady in a world that had grown too fast, too loud, too far away. She glanced toward the faded photograph on the mantel, her husband, Arthur, standing tall in his army uniform. His smile was young, hopeful. She pressed her wrinkled hand against the frame and whispered, "Morning." Love her she did every day. But that morning was different. From beyond the hills came a sound that did not belong to the gentle quiet of winter. At first it was faint, so faint she thought it was just the wind pushing against the barn. But then it grew. A low, steady rumble that crawled across the frozen ground and found its way through the walls. Margaret's brow furrowed. She turned off the stove and stood still, listening. The rumble thickened. Boots crunched outside, voices, deep, rough, unfamiliar. She moved to the window and pulled back the curtain with trembling fingers. That's when she saw them. 40 motorbikes rolling slowly into her front field, tires hissing against the snow. Their engines growled like beasts held on leashes. Chrome caught the pale light of morning, flashing like blades. The riders were leather-clad, their jackets heavy with patches, the Iron Reapers. Their presence was not subtle. It was thunder arriving on two wheels. Margaret's breath caught. Her heart kicked against her ribs. She hadn't seen a crowd this large in years, let alone bikers here in the middle of nowhere. The lead rider pulled off his helmet. His hair was slicked back, his jaw square, his eyes sharp. He swung his leg off the bike with the ease of someone who had done it 1,000 times. His name was Tyler Ward, president of the Iron Reapers. Behind him, men dismounted one by one, boots striking the frozen earth like a drumbeat. They didn't speak loudly. They didn't charge forward. They simply gathered. 40 figures standing in the snow, their breath fogging the air like smoke. Margaret's fingers clutched the curtain tighter. "Dear God," she whispered. She thought for a brief, terrible moment that this was it. A raid, a robbery, that the world outside her walls had finally come to take what little she had left. But what came next was stranger. A tall man with a weathered face and tattooed hands stepped forward. Grayson, Tyler's second in command. He knocked on her door, not with force, with respect. 3 solid knocks. Margaret froze. The last time she'd heard a knock at this door after dark, it had been the vicar delivering bad news. She wasn't sure which was worse. She opened the door only a crack. "Yes?" Her voice was small, fragile. Grayson removed his gloves. His breath came out in white clouds. "Ma'am," he said in a voice roughened by years on the road, "we're not here to hurt you. There's a storm coming in hard. Roads are closing. We just need somewhere to wait it out." Margaret blinked. "Here?" He nodded. "We'll pay. We won't touch a thing that isn't ours. Just need a roof for the night." Her instinct screamed to close the door, to lock it, to retreat into the safe silence she'd built around herself. But then, faintly, Arthur's voice echoed in her memory. "Always help a traveler, Maggie, even if he looks like trouble." She took a slow breath, steadied her hand against the doorframe and nodded. "Come in," she said. One by one the bikers stepped into her kitchen. Leather jackets, heavy boots, tattoos curling up their necks like vines. They filled the room with their presence, a wall of strangers and noise. But they removed their helmets. They wiped their boots. They spoke in low tones, careful not to break the fragile air she offered them. Margaret busied herself at the stove, feeding them what little she had, soup, bread, warm milk. She thought it would barely be enough, but as they sat down something shifted. They didn't rush forward like starving wolves. They lined up. 40 hardened men queuing quietly for a widow's humble meal. "Thank you," murmured one. Another bowed his head slightly as she handed him a bowl. "Ma'am," said another, his voice soft despite the tattoos on his face. Their movements carried a heaviness she hadn't expected. Not menace, not arrogance, something closer to humility. As the storm howled outside and the snow thickened, the farmhouse became a sanctuary. Boots thudded softly, chairs scraped, voices murmured in low conversation. Gone was the sharp tension of strangers. In its place lingered an unspoken truce. Margaret watched them eat. These men the world might have called outlaws, and saw not criminals, but travelers battered by a life that had given them little mercy. She cleared plates slowly, her old hands steadying against the tremor of age. For a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to believe that the night would end quietly, that come morning they'd ride off, leaving her with nothing more than the faint smell of leather and petrol. But then, she noticed it, a shift. The bikers' eyes, once fixed on their food or the fire, began to stray toward the window. Their voices fell, their bodies stilled. It wasn't fear. It was listening. Margaret frowned. "What is it?" No one answered, but she felt it too, deep beneath the floorboards. A vibration, faint at first like a heartbeat stirring in the earth. The dishes rattled against the counter. The kerosene lamp swayed. Then it grew louder. Engines, hundreds of them. The sound rolled over the hills like thunder gathering strength. 40 men rose from their seats, not in panic but in unity. Boots pounded the wooden floor as they stepped outside into the freezing air. Margaret followed to the doorway, clutching her shawl tight. Beyond the fields, over the ridge, a river of headlights appeared. Chrome flashed against the night. 200 bikes descending the narrow road toward her farmhouse. Her breath hitched. Her knees weakened. This wasn't the end of the night. This was only the beginning.